10th time's the charm. Yeah, I've done this intro 10 times, and I simply cannot figure out why I cannot speak. This is the second part of my overview on my process for my Anne Curry project. If you want to see the first part, click on the iCard above. If you want to see other videos that I've done, click on my channel. I've done 3 on my process about making this garment already. This is the second and last part, hopefully, of this entire Anne Curry series. And yeah, we're just gonna get right into it. This video is gonna be talking about my making process, mostly the drafting and the draping process that went into making this. So all the bits that you didn't see in the actual making process videos that I didn't show, you're gonna see now. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my working process with Lara a little bit more, not just the interpretation side that we went through, but just working as a whole with her and then working with the performer in our fittings. There wasn't a lot to talk about of it, so it'll go pretty fast. And then after that, I will go over my final thoughts of what I think I could have done better, what I think went really well, how the overall garment itself was a success, and what things weren't a success with the garment, i.e. fitting properly, how it closes up, little bits and pieces like that. So without further ado, let's get into this first part, which is my making process. So, my making process. Like I said, I've already done 3 videos on my making process for the petticoat, the skirt, the jacket, apron, train, hat. If you want to see those, click somewhere in the video. Links will be down in the description. But this is going to show all the background stuff that I did not get to show in those videos, and it's mostly going to be the drafting or the draping process for the jacket, especially in that first video, or in the jacket video. I didn't really show a lot of the draping. I just showed a lot of the making of the final product. So with that being said, I'm going to go right into this, and we're going to start with the jacket and the draping process. Pictures will show up sporadically to show what I'm talking about. So when I first wanted to do the jacket, I already had a commercial jacket pattern in mind for the basic shape, like a block. I knew that that jacket had 2 darts that went, not going to be able to show it, but they kind of went, right here for the larger ones, and then slightly further down, just so it could do the shaping over the bust properly. So I knew that I needed to have darting somewhere, and 2 darts looks really, really nice. Once I got that done, I decided to compare that to an extant garment, because that was a commercial pattern. I did an extant garment pattern draft really quickly just to see what it would have looked like, and I kind of combined the 2 together when I was draping to figure out placement of the darts and then placement of the pleating, like how far the side back panels needed to go into the back and how they need to be stitched on. On a lot of extant garments, you can see that the back panels are just tucked under. So if I do it with just like, some paper. So if this is my back and this is the side back and it's on a curve, this will just be folded over essentially and then top stitched down, if that makes any sense. You'll see a picture of what I'm talking about. But that was kind of where I was at. I got the basic block done, I got it fitted, it was looking good, so I decided to make it out of the blue taffeta that I had in my personal stash, and it was looking really, really nice. And I was very happy with the shape, I was very happy with the structure, everything was pretty much done at that point, and I was ready to move on from the jacket to figuring out the smaller bits on the jacket. So where the blouse front, where that was going to be positioned. So the way that the design looks is that it looks like she's wearing a vest, kind of like how I'm wearing now, like a vest, and then there's a blouse that she's wearing underneath. However, it all buttons up on one button stand, so I had to figure out placement of the blouse to make it look like she was wearing one, but also placement of how am I going to get this button stand on once I have it all constructed as one piece rather than a blouse and then a vest and all that stuff. I should have a picture of it somewhere, but this was what I came up with, and I was very happy with the placement and the shape of what it was going to end up looking like out of the chiffon. And next was moving on to the sleeves. The sleeves were a bit of a tricky detail. I had wanted a two-piece sleeve because they were very fitted to the body, and the jacket looked very fitted already, and the sleeves look very fitted to the arm. And a two-piece sleeve, you can achieve a very fitted look. The only other way that I know with a one-piece sleeve is to cut it on the bias, and it can stretch once you have that one seam, which is usually the underarm seam, sewn up. So I made a two-piece sleeve. I left it as is from the pattern that I already had from the commercial pattern, and Laura wanted more fullness. So I made one with more fullness, and we went with the second version. I made two different versions of fullness, one that had more fullness than the first, and then another one that had even more fullness. It was doing some weird things with the two-piece sleeve, and I would have had to redraft it, and it would have been something that would have taken a lot more time. So we went with the second one, and it turned out beautifully. That was most of the drafting that I had to do, or the draping, I should say. The jacket took the most time out of my entire making of this. The skirts went by really fast, the ruffles went by really fast. The jacket was the most time consuming bit because there was so much detail in such a tiny garment piece. So once that was all figured out, it was ready to be done up in the main fabric, which, again, watch the previous videos that I have made on it. Let's see. The making of the blouse, again, wasn't really too hard. It was part of the jacket, so it was long, but it was pretty much just fussy and fiddly because the Devore burnout fabric was not wanting to cooperate. The seam allowance ended up somehow getting really small at one section in order to make it symmetrical, which I thought I had enough, so it was not fun. And it still is not where I would have it, but it's good enough to be on stage and be worn. Like, it's not going to fall apart. That was most of the patterning and the drafting process that I went through. And it was mostly just all the jacket. Because like I said, the skirt was all flat patterned because it was just blocks, essentially, with some shaping at the waist with darts or with pleats. Next up, I'm going to talk about working with Lara and the performer in a theatrical setting. So, I have done theater for a long time. I've done it for 8 years, 8.5 years almost. So I've worked with designers, I've worked with directors, and I've been the designer who people had to work with, and it's different from every person. So working with Lara as the acting designer on this Anne Curry project wasn't anything new to me. I knew kind of what to expect from, a designer's perspective, mostly because I am one and I've worked with them. But it was nice. Lara wasn't, how can I say this? She wasn't condescending. I've worked with condescending designers or directors. So she wasn't condescending. She wasn't rude. She was very open to collaboration. She was very open to having everything, work in favor with the performer and with us, mostly because, one, this wasn't her design. Two, this wasn't for an actual theater show. It was for our own personal like collection, but not like our personal collection. It was just to get the experience of working with the designer, so that way when we do end up working in the professional world, we have some semblance of, you know, working professionally. Like I said, I've done it so many times where it's just become second nature to me, so this was a very easy process. It went very smoothly. I knew what to expect. I knew how to do it. The one thing that working with Lara that I would have changed is, one, I would have done a lot more sampling with her. I would have done a lot more different things to show versatility. And the main problem that I kind of did, that Tony kind of scolded me for, which by all means I deserved it. I had switched one main fabric, like the black fabric. Yeah, I switched that when I was buying it because pricing was not where it needed to be. The matte black taffeta that I originally had was more expensive than the shiny black taffeta that I had bought. So I changed it without telling, really. Well, I told, but like I didn't give samples. I should have given a sample first and then bought it. But I didn't. I would change that. I would never do that in an actual professional setting. That would just be horrendous to think. Just like, oh yeah, you wanted this gold. Yeah. Well, actually, we went with a shiny gold rather than the matte gold, even though the character specifically says this is a matte gold dress and now it's shiny. I would never do that. So that's some things that I would change about myself. I would have done things differently. The one thing that I was not keen on was time management on Lara's end. And I mean, no disrespect, no, you know, I'm not trying to be a bitchy about it. And I'm not being bitchy. I'm not, you know, casting hate or doubt, because everyone has stuff going on in their lives. Everyone has, you know, bad days. Everyone has off days. Everyone is very busy, especially if you're in a theater setting and you're, you know, a designer. But time management wise, emailing and having to wait a day or two in order to do stuff was not the greatest, especially in the situation we were in. We're two groups for our entire class, and there's 9 of us. So we only get 2 days in the shop for us, and then we have to schedule extra time, or like we have to put it in our schedule that, okay, well, we're going to be in on this day, and if you're in this group, then you can't be with us because we're trying to separate and we're trying to be safe and everything. And when you only have 2 days and you're waiting for it and you don't get back for 3 days on something where it's, you know, I can't work on this until I hear back from you. And if I don't hear back from you until the following, you know, couple of days, it's like I've just wasted 3 days waiting for a response because I can no longer do anything. So that's just one thing that I wish would have changed a little bit, is time management. Anyway, working with a performer, it wasn't really a performer, it was one of our classmates, but my classmate had done theater stuff before, so it went really smoothly. There's nothing really to compliment, commend, or anything. I mean, I can compliment, you know, being on time, being courteous, being, you know, respectful about the costume and not saying how ugly it was or how uncomfortable it is or how this is hurting or whatever. We want to hear that, just not in a rude way. So nothing was bad, nothing to go on about. So this is the end of the video. It's too long for me to upload the entire thing, so there's going to be a third part to this. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for that last video. Thanks. Have a great day.